Hello, hello. I think we're live. Can everyone hear me right now? Check, check. Anybody there? All right. Let me know really quick if you can hear me, please. All righty. Well, I think we're live. It says my connection's unstable. All right. Hopefully everything's going good. If not, we will see how this goes. Welcome everyone to my impromptu live chat. I've been wanting to start doing these a little bit more often, and what better day to get this kicking than today, where we had a bunch of pretty crazy news, right? I remember whenever I was waking up this morning and the first thing that dropped was Ori on Switch, and I was thinking, okay, this is going to be like my big talking point today, right? This is going to probably be the biggest news that people are really anticipating and excited about. We're seeing more Microsoft games on the Switch, and then out of nowhere, Sony just decides to drop this nuclear bomb that they're buying Insomniac. I mean, that's crazy. That's out of nowhere, right? It's one of those things. Sense, right? It makes sense. Sony and Insomniac have had such a good relationship for so long. Insomniac's made a ton of exclusives for them, but yeah, it still just kind of came out of nowhere. There wasn't like a ton of rumors floating around online that this was going to happen, and so crazy stuff from Sony here. I'm mostly going to want to be asking, your questions. So make sure you drop some comments in the chat about all of this, whatever you want to talk about. We can talk about, what's next with Microsoft and Nintendo. Obviously, things are building there. They have been for a while, and the fact that we're just still getting more and more first-party games published, pretty clear that relationship's really tight. I'm sure we're going to talk about Insomniac, a whole bunch of that. Biggest news of today and of the year from DMV fan wasn't at Gamescom. I know, right? I mean, so out of all of the studio acquisitions, I think this has got to be the biggest, right? I mean, the Microsoft stuff's really big. A lot of them have been, definitely bolstering their studios a bunch. But like we just saw with Insomniac, really strong position. So them to acquire them, this could not have come cheap, right? Like this had to be crazy. Is a lot less than it was now. I mean, they had to pony up some serious money for this. And one thing, that I like about that is when these rumors first started circulating that, hey, Sony's going to start looking at making some acquisitions. Sony themselves started putting this out there. No one really knew, how big are we talking? Are we going to be talking about some smaller indie-sized studios? Are we talking some like major AAA, developers? And clearly this sends a message like Sony's looking for some big ones, right? The other one that people have been speculating about is Remedy. I would not be shocked to see if Remedy's next. I don't have any information on that. That's not like any kind of inside thing. But if they're willing to buy someone as big as Insomniac, I mean, yeah, anything's on the table now. Anything. I'm surprised by this, though, mostly because Insomniac has talked so much over the years how they love being independent. They love being able to forge their own path, make their own decisions. And while they did partner with Sony on a lot of stuff, including Spider-Man, they could really, at the end of the day, they were, self-owned. They could go whatever direction they wanted. And now, they are a full first-party studio for Sony. So, that's a big change for them. I'm happy for them. I think this is a good move for both. I think it's a good move for everyone. They get an even bigger investment than they already had, a little bit more security, right? Being an independent studio, while it does have a lot of pluses, it's also a bit of a risk, right? I mean, anything can happen. One game fails, and if you're an independently owned studio, it can hurt you really bad. And now they have all that financing power from Sony behind them, and it's good for Sony as well because, I mean, they don't have any risk now of Insomniac going anywhere. All right, let's dive into some of your questions here. We got some stuff popping up. From Pokeland, everyone seems to focus on Spider-Man and Ratchet and Clank, but what about Insomniac's VR output? Good catch, Pokeland. I was thinking this myself. 3 VR games in 2016, another one this year. Insomniac could also be great for Sony to bolster their VR output. I 100% agree with you. That was something that kind of popped into the back of my head whenever this whole thing happened. Insomniac is not new to making VR content. PSVR, as we know, isn't like this huge giant market, but it does have like a very strong base, right? The people that like PSVR really like it. They go out, they buy games. We already know that Sony's not abandoning VR. They've flat out said that the current VR headset is going to work on the PlayStation 5. That's directly from them. And there's a ton of patents out there about future VR tech. So clearly, Sony is still in the VR game. And Insomniac has experience with that, right? They have experience making VR games. So I agree, Pokeland. Like there's a lot of things that Insomniac could be doing. Obviously, Spider-Man is in the works. That's a no-brainer. But yeah, this also helps bolster their VR output. Wound Up Penguin at Benji-Sales. Sony tweeted out in the middle of opening night live right after the Gears 5 trailer. Not a coincidence, surely. Yeah, that's interesting, right? The timing of this is definitely interesting. I don't know that they were, directly trying to combat, anything that Microsoft's doing, but they grabbed some headlines. It's very interesting that they did this now, that they didn't announce it on a stage. I wonder how quickly this came together. I'm sure an acquisition this big was in the works for a while, but it is interesting. This was not strong in the rumor mill. Like I tweeted that out earlier. I usually have a good idea about a lot of this stuff. There's a lot I don't. I'm not saying I'm like an A-class insider who knows everything, but I do know some stuff. I was very familiar with some of the Microsoft acquisitions, for example, before they happened. And I did not know that this was about to go down. Anyone who's in that rumor mill has heard about Sony wanting Insomniac before. In fact, Sean Layden himself said that he's wanted Insomniac for a while. This isn't new. Like Sony definitely wanted Insomniac, but I had not heard anything like, oh, hey, by the way, like this is done. This is gonna happen. I had not heard anything about that. So I'm curious how quickly this came together. If it was like, faster than maybe we think, or if it was just brewing for a long time and people did a good job not talking about it. Patrick here. It's obvious we're getting Spider-Man 2 on PS5, but first there are The Last of Us 2 and Ghost of Tsushima that need to be released next year. Yeah, for sure. So Spider-Man 2, I would not anticipate that's a 2020 title. 2021 probably at the earliest, maybe even later. So yeah, we've got some big games on the horizon before that. Spider-Man's definitely coming. You don't sell over 13 million copies as fast as that did. And I'm curious about is if The Last of Us 2 can match Spider-Man. I've been tweeting about this, going back and forth with people. Some people think Spider-Man's going to still keep that record for fastest selling. Some people think The Last of Us 2 is. That's going to be interesting to watch. 13 million this quick is not easy. So that's going to be an interesting race to watch. Another Patrick here. Are we going to see first details of PS5 and PSX? The fact that Sony put out there the first details of PS5 with the Wired article, while with PS4, those details were set at PSX. I don't know. I have no idea when Sony's going to show PS5. I really just don't have any information on that. They originally put out the information that they did on the PS5 because, dev kits were going out. They were becoming a lot more common. So some of this information that they put out there was going to leak anyways, right? Had they not said anything, the dev kits just went out. People would have started mentioning things like SSD and all this stuff. So they wanted to control the messaging around that. But I don't know if that's going to be at PSX. My guess is it's not. My guess is they hold off still until next year, maybe February again, like they did with the PS4. But I don't know. I mean, it could be at PSX. I really don't have any information on that for you. DMV fan, Spider-Man sold 13.2 million units, which is Nintendo evergreen tier sales-wise. With the success of titles like Spidey and God of War, are Microsoft and Nintendo's IPs really that much stronger in the game realm? Yeah, I mean, that's a very good question, DMV fan. There used to be a time when Sony's exclusives, outside of really like Gran Turismo, they were seen as not being quite on the same level as Nintendo and even Microsoft, right? Back whenever Halo was just this insane juggernaut, and back when Gears of War was selling, 6+ million entries per franchise or per entry, there was a time where Sony's games were not necessarily looked at in the same caliber sales-wise, like not necessarily quality. I'm not saying that, but there was that famous tweet from Aaron Greenberg, where he was, kind of mocking Sony, saying, "Oh, look, Halo by itself outsold all these PlayStation games." But how the tables have turned, right? The PS4 exclusives are just software beasts. If you look at God of War, if you look at Uncharted, if you look at Man now, yeah, I think it's safe to say that Sony has built their first party up into that tier with Nintendo. I mean, maybe still not quite, you look at something like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and something like that's just crazy, or Smash Ultimate. So maybe Sony's still just a tad bit below Nintendo in terms of the major exclusive game sales, but they aren't far. They are not far, and they've definitely passed Xbox in terms of that. Kyofu, stream choppy for anyone else. I'm sorry. It very well could be. If my stream is sucking for you, I'm really sorry. I've never streamed, this kind of Q&A thing before. So if it's choppy, I'm sorry about that. I'll try and address it and fix it in the future. Stream quality is coming through low. Okay, so we're getting a couple of those. Yeah, stream is choppy. Sorry, everyone. Is this still really bad? Is it really cutting out on you? Can you let me know if you're hearing this? Let me check something really quick. Give me just a sec. Okay, so DMV, it's all right. Kyofu, it's not the worst, but it's not great. Yeah, sorry. I'm doing this from my basement, and it's really pixelated. Bummer. Okay. Yeah, sorry about that, everybody. Bummer. Okay. Well, then we'll just go for like another, 8 minutes here or so, and we'll call it a day since the stream's kind of messing up. I'll work on it. My computer is downstairs from my router, so I might need to get like a signal booster if I'm going to be streaming. Okay. All right. Let's go back to questions really quick. Like I said, we're going to do this maybe another 10 minutes or so. Okay. Back up to Patrick here. Obviously, you can't say anything as of now, but have you heard if Sony are still going to acquire another studio in the short term? Definitely that they've been looking, right? Like that's been a known thing. Sony themselves have commented on it, rumor mill, all that stuff. It's a thing. I don't know of any first-party studios on the way. I know of exclusive games that are on the way that might be from some studios that might surprise you. I won't go into anything else about that, but they're definitely working on more exclusive games, including games with other studios that maybe are not owned by them. But in terms of who they're going to acquire next, couldn't tell you. I doubt they just stop at Insomniac, though. I doubt it. It'll be interesting to see. I think there might be a lot of smoke behind that Remedy rumor. I think there really might be. If Control sells well, right? Like if it does pretty solid, I think you might see Sony jump on them. Jaffe Taffy, what did you think of the Death Stranding trailers today? I am in love with them. Will you upload a reaction to it or not? So I'm not going to upload a reaction because I was watching it live, but I wasn't recording anything at the time. And I don't want to do like a fake reaction. I don't do a ton of reaction videos, but I do them every once in a while when it's something I'm really excited about. Death Stranding is definitely that caliber. But I wasn't watching it live. So I was not recording myself watching it live. So I don't want to put up necessarily a fake reaction, but I liked the trailers. Super weird, man. I mean, Death Stranding is just bizarreville. But I think I love it for that, right? Whether this game ends up being like a masterpiece or just crashes and burns being just insanely confusing, who knows? But I like weird stuff. I like people experimenting and doing something different than just another, cookie cutter shooter or something like that. I'm all for it. All right. Next up. Audio works fine. Video is almost worthless. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry about that. I'll try and work on it. Kyofu, did you see Remedy employees all over Twitter congratulating Insomniac? I feel like they're working with Sony behind the scenes. If not because of an acquisition, then at least a game project. Like I said, I think there's definitely some smoke there, right? A lot of times whenever you see a lot of smoke around something, that's because there's a fire. And the way Sony's been buddy with them on Control, the way, yes, like you said, this isn't the first time either. Remedy employees have kind of been on Sony's timeline, commenting on news about them. My guess, and again, this is a guess, I do not know if Sony's trying to buy Remedy, but my guess is if Control does really well, someone pointed out, that they are a publicly traded company. So if they do try to purchase Remedy, we'll know that, a bit beforehand. It won't be like Insomniac was more than likely, where it's just out of nowhere, where it's just like, boom, Sony, we own them. We'll probably have a little bit more forewarning on that one. But if Control does well, I will not be surprised. I will not be surprised one bit. I mean, I think we all agree Remedy's a good fit for Sony, right? It's their wheelhouse. Remedy loves making single player, story heavy narrative games. And while, Sony has said that they want to branch out, do more multiplayer stuff, they're kind of a bit behind in terms of that. We all love their single player games, but they don't have like a ton of really big multiplayer games. So it makes sense now, but Remedy fits right into their wheelhouse. So I will not be shocked at all if Control does well, if Sony jumps on that. Patrick, From Software, new IP exclusive on PS5 LMAO about Control. I know some friends have access to the game for X reasons. People are sleeping on it. Reviews will surprise a lot. Well, I love Remedy, so if it's even half as good as Alan Wake was, then I'll love Control. Denzel, so what is the future of Microsoft Nintendo partnership? Here we go. We haven't gotten into this at all yet, so let's talk about this. Is it more games, services, both? So, yet again, we're seeing Microsoft and Nintendo just. Who would have thought back whenever that very first trailer came out for Minecraft, the very famous survive together, better together, at the time that was seen as crazy, right? We never had really seen the big console manufacturers just like so buddy together on something, right? Like, they've been friendly with each other, but a lot of times there was a lot of competitiveness to a lot of the language that they would use together. And, look at how this has blossomed. We're now getting, multiple. I mean, Microsoft owns the Ori IP. Like they own it, and they're putting that on there. Banjo and Smash. It's just more and more. So what I can tell you is that this has been an evolving thing for a while. This has been both sides are very happy from what I've heard. Again, I'm not an A-list. I'm like an S-tier sales. Like I've got my fingers everywhere there. Other insider stuff, I hear a lot of gossip. Some of it is very real. Some of it is very fake. That's why I don't, you don't see me constantly tweeting about all the gossip I hear, because I don't want to tell you a bunch of fake stuff. Anyone that's in the rumor mill, it's hard to pierce out what's real and what's not. But the Nintendo stuff, it's been going on for a long time. From what I've heard, there's going to be more games. Like this isn't the only game, right? That there's probably more on the way, and maybe not necessarily saying you're going to see Zelda on Xbox, but you might see a little something go Microsoft's way as well. All right, what do we got next? Empty and Full. How is market share between AAA publishers and indie devs evolving? Wow, what a good. I want to go answer that and also say something a little different as well. So it's nice seeing indies do really strong. Like I love having that indie there, but if you are noticing, the middle has been disappearing for a long time, right? We all know that the THQs, the stuff like that, which they've made a comeback, but like that middle tier game, that AA game has kind of disappeared, and you're seeing a little bit of a comeback of that again, right? You saw that with Darksiders. You're seeing that with Control, for example. That's, the same wheelhouse. But while you're seeing that come back, at the same time, you're almost seeing it disappear again through acquisitions. And it's going to happen more. The acquisitions are not done. Microsoft's not done buying studios. Sony's not done buying studios. So I am very curious to see where this ends up. Indie's not going anywhere. I think the indie scene is thriving. I think AAA is not going anywhere. You sometimes see people be like, oh, is the AAA industry sustainable? It is sustainable, but it's not always sustainable. the exact same, right? You got to change it up. You got to do things. They test things. That's why you saw loot boxes for a while, which was not the way to go about it. You still see some loot boxes, but I feel like the industry's kind of backed off on that. So yeah, I don't think either one's going anywhere. I do worry though that you're going to see less and less independent, like middle tier publishers, because I think they're just going to get bought up. You know, they're getting bought up as we speak. Look at how many Microsoft's bought. Sony just bought Insomniac, which was one of the real big middle tier. You know, they made AAA games, but they were also, you know, that middle tier. And I think that's going to only accelerate. I don't think – I'm curious if Nintendo is going to buy anyone, right? That's weird. I don't know if they're going to or not. How long are we going? We're 21. Do you want to push this to 30 minutes, guys? I'll push it to 30 if you want 30. And then I'm going to bounce. 30 minutes if you guys want it. I'm having fun doing this. So, okay. Wound Up Penguin. Why haven't Microsoft acquired big AAA studios? They're buying all these AA studios. They're about to go bust when they have the money for AAA. You know, we're definitely, I feel like, seeing two competing theories here, right? It looks like Microsoft's going for abundance in a way, which kind of makes sense, right? They felt that they had like a dearth of content. Like they just had too few studios. Like they just did not have enough. They were hitting large gaps in time between games coming out. Now they have Game Pass, which is this like major company initiative. You know, this is straight from Nadella and Spencer. This is like a huge, I mean, Game Pass, I cannot overstate internally how important that is seen to Microsoft. It's big. It's a big factor in the Xbox brand moving forward. And if you're going to sustain something like that, you know, a big draw of it is getting, obviously all the third parties are awesome, but a big draw of it is getting those Xbox exclusives day one. Gears 5, for example, it's about to come out day one. If you have Ultimate, you get the Ultimate Edition. So that's like the big driver there, and they need games. So I think why you're seeing them buy so many of like these smaller mid-range studios is they just need content. They need games. They need them on the platform, and they're just trying to get as many as they can. They may get a big AAA studio. I know that they've looked at them. I can flat out tell you that for a fact. They have looked at buying some big names. Nothing like, you know, those rumors you saw. They're going to buy EA or a publisher. I don't think there's any truth to any of that, but they have looked at some big studios, and for whatever reason, they haven't worked out. Whereas Sony, I feel like, is taking a bit of a different approach. They already had a really strong first party. And yes, there's big gaps. You know, they also have a bit of the problem with gaps between games. But when those games come out, boom. I mean, they're hitting 10 million plus sales on God of War and Uncharted and stuff like that. So they already had a strong first party. And so I think Sony's thought process is that they're trying to get marquee studios. They're trying to make that first party. We know they're really proud of it. They love to talk about it. They love to talk about how proud they are of their studios and the teams they've created. Their games win tons of awards. And so I think it's just a bit of a different thought process. I think Microsoft's trying to get content. They're trying to get content to get on Game Pass and get out there. Not that those games are bad or those studios are bad, but they're just making as many purchases as possible. That makes sense still. Whereas Sony's trying to get those real marquee studios to make these, you know, really big exclusives. So I think that's why you're seeing, you know, fewer but big purchases by Sony and then a lot from Microsoft. That's what I think you're seeing there. Stream quality is good again. Awesome. I am happy to hear that. I'm sorry. I'll try and get like a signal booster for my basement if I'm going to be doing streams like this. All right, where are we at? Why haven't I? Okay. Patrick, don't look too much into Remedy. Congratulating Insomniac. Respawned it too, but hopefully it's true. Yeah, I don't think that's a smoking gun. I don't think that, you know, Remedy being, you know, saying that is a smoking gun. I just think it's a studio that makes sense. They are not super expensive. I'd imagine Insomniac costs more than, I mean, they have to. After Spider-Man, Insomniac had to be more expensive than Remedy. I mean, yeah, after Spidey. So, and they're a studio that makes sense. So that's my thinking there. But yeah, them congratulating someone on Twitter is not no smoking gun, but it's a good sign, you know. I think that relationship's good. I'll say that. I think all evidence is that Sony and Remedy are getting along pretty good. Pokeland, if Sony wants Remedy, they better be quick because their stock price is going up rapidly. Yeah, that's true. That's true. And if Control's a hit, they better act quick. If there is something going on behind the scenes, when they see those Control numbers, if they're solid, which I really hope they are, I've seen a little bit of evidence that it might do well for the scale of game it is. Again, don't go in there expecting, oh, Benji's saying it's going to sell 1 million copies, week one. No. But for like that mid-tier range game, it is looking like it might do pretty good. So if reviews are strong, I think it might do really good. So yeah, Sony better act quick. Patrick, I'm very conflicted on Microsoft's general strategy about Xbox exclusives anymore. It's good for PC. Yeah, it's interesting, right? Yeah, I've seen some complaints about that the Xbox fan base wonders, if this is a good direction to move, putting their games on PC, putting their games on Switch. That maybe they're losing a little bit of that value, like reason you need to go out and buy an Xbox. And I think, I hate to say it, but I think that's kind of intentional. I think Microsoft's preparing for a future where the box you play on isn't the most important thing. And they're willing to maybe take a little bit of hit on that hardware sales, being like, well, I don't need to buy an Xbox. I'll just play this on my PC. I think short term, their thinking is, okay, we'll sell a few less Xboxes if we get more people on Xbox Live. For example, Ori, it's already confirmed to have achievements. It's already confirmed, to connect to your Xbox Live account. So I think this is a long-term play. I'm not necessarily going to tell you if it's the best play or not, because I think that remains to be seen, right? I think we need to see in a few years how this is going. Is, their Xbox Live users just skyrocketing more and more and more, and, then it may be worth it. But that's the thought process, right? Yes, we're not going to sell as many Xboxes right now, but we're getting more people into our ecosystem. So, yeah, that's that. Stream quality, good. Yeah, we're past that. Bart jumped in. I'm sorry if you already covered this, but did you see Sean Layden say that Ratchet and Clank will be a vital series? Oh, yeah. You're going to get more Ratchet. Definitely. I've seen a lot of people ask me if that was the Sony exclusive that I referred to a while ago that I thought was going to get announced. And no, it's not Ratchet, but you definitely get more Ratchet. The reboot sold really well. I'm interested to see if you see Sunset Overdrive. Sony owns that IP now. Maybe you don't see a Sunset Overdrive 2, but Sony owns that IP. So they could actually release Sunset Overdrive for PS4 if they wanted. Who knows how much work it would be and if it would be worth it, right? I mean, the game was designed for Xbox and PC, so who knows if it's worth the port time and resources to get that on PS4, but they definitely can. They own the IP. So Sunset Overdrive is a really cool game. I'd like to see it come out for PS4, but yeah. Ratchet, definitely. Yeah, to answer your question, Ratchet, definitely. You're going to get more Ratchet and Clank. Any hope for a sequel to The Order 1886 from Abdi? I'd love it. I would love to see a sequel. The Order 1886 is a super flawed game. I think we can all agree with that. Game is super flawed, but I really liked the universe they created. Visually, it was stunning. It doesn't look like it's happening. Rad just tweeted out recently that their third-person shooter that they're working on for console is a new IP. So I don't think it's likely, but I mean, I would love to see it. I really enjoyed that game. I enjoyed the universe, I should say. Gameplay was not great, but I really like what they created. All right, we're almost done here, folks. Just going to go for another couple minutes. But if you're enjoying this, I'd love to do this more often, by the way. I think these live chats are fun. I like getting this one-on-one with you and getting this conversation going. So if you're liking this, I don't know how often I'm going to do it, but when we get like really big news like today, I'd love to do one of these once every like couple weeks or something. Okay. Where did I leave off here? All right, DMV fans. Speaking of Nintendo, any specific studios you see them buying? Platinum. Platinum is, that is so hard, because it's like, if they buy someone, I have to imagine it's a Japanese studio, just because there's not a lot of like big Western studios that I feel like Nintendo has this like super close relationship with that are realistic to buy. We're seeing them and like Bethesda are pretty buddy. Bethesda's releasing a lot of games for the Switch, but they're not going to buy Bethesda. Like that's not the kind of thing that's going to happen. So that is interesting. Like Sony, their studios, I can envision them buying. Microsoft, their studios, I can envision them buying. Nintendo is like a tough one. I'm sure some of you might have some ideas, but for me, that's one thing I've been thinking about is who would they buy? Platinum, they definitely have a good relationship with them. So that is as a possibility. But other than that, I'd have to imagine it's some sort of Japanese studio that they would buy if they acquire one. And I'm not sure who that would be. That's a tough one. Patrick, I hope Abdi, but I don't think it will happen. Okay, so it's about order. Yeah. Jose, do you believe Microsoft will focus on Asia when it comes to acquisitions? From Jose here. They definitely want a Japanese studio. Phil has said it himself, and I know it has been a thing. They have looked at them. There was rumors about that even before Phil himself said it. Like before Phil said it, they were already, and I'm not just saying rumors I heard, like, those, you all saw them. They popped up on forums and stuff, people saying Microsoft. Phil was, making some trips over there. People saw they want one, I think, and I think it's actually more for like a to show that they support that kind of stuff. Look at how they trotted Kingdom Hearts out onto the stage, right? Devil May Cry. Like Microsoft's trying to send that messaging that, hey, we're, they've been struggling with this forever, right? People have always called them the shooter box and like, the dude bro console. I don't think that, I think people that own Xboxes like all kinds of games, but they've had that image, right? A lot of people have that image of them. And I think I think Phil thinks, hey, if we have a first party Japanese studio, that goes definitely a long way in changing the minds of that. Whether they're going to end up buying one or not, I don't know, but they definitely want one. They definitely do. Which one would make sense? I don't know. But yeah, they definitely do. Eric Flapjack here. What do you think about EA's backpedaling about their stance on games on the Switch over the weekend after the bad press? I mean, third-party games are doing great on Switch. I mean, a lot of them. I'm not telling you every single one's a smash hit, but I mean, a lot of them are doing really good. So in my opinion on this is, why wouldn't you? If you're a third-party publisher and your game can run, I mean, if your game cannot run on the system, you're making some kind of crazy cutting-edge visuals game, not everything's going to be able to run on Switch. I totally get that. But if your game can realistically run on, look how good Mortal Kombat did. I mean, it did very well. And it's a hardcore, that is as M-rated of a game as you're going to get. So the idea that, some people have had that, M-rated games might not sell on the Switch. They don't get more M than Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat did really good. If your game can be ported, if your game will realistically work, look at Witcher on the way. I mean, that's not an easy game to port, and they're doing it. So, EA, come on. If your games will work on the system, there's no reason to not support it. This is not a Wii U situation at all in terms of third-party sales. Joseki here. Do you think Astral Chain could outsell Bayonetta 2 on Switch? Last reported number was 400,000 worldwide a few days after launch. Interesting question. I don't know what to think of Astral Chain. I'm going to answer these questions here and then I'm done. All right. I'm just going to call the stream there. I'm still going to answer these. So Empty and Full's last one there. After that, I'm not going to answer any more questions in this stream, but we'll do some more. But not had like very good, I'll just be honest with you, metrics in the lead up to launch, like in terms of viewership on trailers, things like that. Also from, some of the things I've heard about pre-orders. I don't like to go super into that stuff because it's all, private information. They haven't been like super strong, but it looks pretty rad. The previews are really good for it. Like a lot of the previews were really, really strong. And that kind of stuff helps. So hard to say. I'll have a better idea, of course, right at launch. That's whenever I start seeing data, like serious data. So tough. I think it's possible to answer your question, but I don't know. Metrics haven't been great in the lead up, but that doesn't necessarily mean everything. Patrick saying, please do more streams more often. Awesome. I'd love to. I'm enjoying this. Yeah, this has been awesome. What's in the next video for Sony, in your opinion? Zane, I think I answered that earlier. If you missed it, I think there might be smoke to the Remedy rumor. I don't know that firsthand, but that's my bet. Nintendo could buy Grasshopper. Ooh, interesting. Wound Up Penguin. Interesting. Okay. I could see something like that. Yeah, I could see that. Interesting. Empty and full, been a great stream. Looking forward to more live content. And Patrick, been good, mate. See you on Twitter. All right, everyone. I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for watching the stream. If you don't subscribe to my channel already, make sure you do. I hate to be that guy that throws the sub to my channel, thing out there. I'm not that kind of pushy dude, but definitely helps the channel out a bunch. I really enjoy making YouTube content. And yeah, I'm glad that you all had so much fun here. I had a blast doing it. So we'll definitely do more of these chats in the future if people would enjoy doing them. I'm not going to commit to doing them like every single week or something like that, but every couple of weeks when there's big news, I'll totally do it. All right, everyone, I'm going to sign off. It's been a good one, and I will see you all in the next video. See ya.